Yo guys, and welcome to my Amazing Spider-Man 3 video. Sorry I haven't uploaded this sooner, but I've really been busy over the last month or so. But with that being said, if you have not watched my Amazing Spider-Man 2 rewrite, I suggest you go and watch that before you watch this, because quite a few of the elements of the story have been changed to compensate for the story that I wanted to tell, and so I didn't have to spend a proportion of this movie fixing the things that the last one broke. Plus, when writing this film to coherently make sense and actually have a decent pacing, I realised that this film will still have to contend with a lot of plot threads anyway, so for the sake of this, I'd say this film will most likely be the longest out of the series. So with that out of the way, I bring you The Amazing Spider-Man 3. So we start our story off relatively slow and calm. Our story starts with our two main central characters, Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. They are happy together and have started full-blown dating after the end of the last movie. Despite the stuff that has been thrown at Peter's life thus far in his Spider-Man career, this is the happiest he has ever been in a while. Gwen is also happy, however, she does have some news for Peter which could potentially disturb their relationship. Gwen has gotten the offer from Oxford University. Now if you guys remember, Gwen got this offer at the end of the last film in the original, however, in my version she never got it. That is because I was saving it for this film instead. There was just too much in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and I had to remove some things to make it less overstuffed. Peter and Gwen's arc for this film as a couple will be set up here at the start of the film, with the fact that they might have to deal with potentially never seeing each other ever again. This also sets up the tone for this film as it could get quite dark, emotional, and depressing. The tone is represented through this scene. On the Harry Osborn side of things, stuff is starting to heat up with that character. In the last film, we were introduced to Harry and Spider-Man won't give him his blood after the cursed Osborn disease is affecting him more rapidly than it ever did to his father Norman. Harry is in a panic, so he needs another option to cure himself. Harry digs deep into Oscorp's files and finds research conducted by Richard Parker. He finds projects under the name Project Green, the Symbiote Project, and a few others. The Symbiote Project, which is the one that stands out to Harry the most, is a suit that can cure any disease, even cancer, which was being worked on by Richard Parker and Eddie Brock Sr. Harry then will hire Eddie Brock's son, Eddie Brock Jr., to help out with the project. We will then get a few scenes where Harry and Peter continue to build their friendship up in this film. Peter will express and unload his feelings onto Harry about how he could potentially never see Gwen again. Harry will try and help Peter through this emotional time, and they will connect like they did when they were kids, building up that brotherly bond like we saw they tried to do in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and to really flesh out these characters. Here it will be built emotionally and will be believable, unlike the last one. However, the film starts to pick up pace when there is a new criminal in town who has been seen in a cat costume. She calls herself the Black Cat. She robs stores secretly. Some of the big jewels of New York City are being stolen and Spider-Man can't figure out who she is or take her down. One night on a heist, her robbery causes a lot of casualties. The city start to blame Spider-Man, the hero, because it's his job to make sure that everyone in the city is kept safe from this type of thing. The arc for the city of New York in the second film was to have faith that a hero will rise in the darkest of times, and the arc for New York in this film is to trust that the hero that has risen will be able to pull through even if the times get tough. Trust is really the overall message of this film. However, this is when we get a Black Cat scene solo for herself, and it is revealed that the Black Cat is in fact Felicia Hardy, Harry Osborn's assistant from the last movie. It's revealed that she never wanted to be a killer and is upset about killing the people on one of her heists. This further fleshes out her character, giving her some ulterior motive for being a criminal when she does not actually have a bad intent. This also shows the audience what type of person she is. This point in the film, Peter is in a hard place. Gwen looks like she will never see him ever again, Harry is slowly dying, and he is far from perfect as a hero as multiple people died, and he still can't catch this cat burglar. Peter now has to be proactive to move the plot forward like any protagonist would. So decides to ask Harry if he can work with Eddie Brock on helping him find out a cure with the Symbiote Project. Since he can't help Harry as Spider-Man, he will help him as Peter Parker. Peter really hits it off with Eddie, however, Harry does not like this at all and we start to see the jealous side of Harry Osborn's character. This is the start of the downfall of his character as he becomes short-tempered and impatient, and so you'd expect from someone who is slowly dying. He starts to take his anger out on Peter and Eddie, however, they are both still determined to help Harry. Donald Mencken starts to become very wary of Harry and his mental state. We have a scene where he is contemplating taking him off the board for good, and it's clear to see just through visual imagery in this scene that Donald Mencken has some evil intent, and malicious intent towards Harry Osborn. Peter, whilst working inside of Oscorp, bumps into Felicia. They both notice something about each other. It's a very awkward scene where they both notice something is up, almost like they have met each other before. Gwen goes to England in a week, so her and Peter go on a date. However, Peter gets news that Oscorp is being broken into by someone going by the description of, you guessed it, a cat. Peter doesn't know any of the Oscorp security codes, so Gwen over the phone helps Peter get inside of Oscorp to stop the Black Cat. Peter immediately comes to the realization for what the Black Cat is after in Oscorp. However, after this, Gwen is a little bit upset. She leaves for England in a week, but she still understands that Spider-Man has a responsibility, and Peter has grown an obsession to prove himself to the city after the distrust they have for him after the Black Cat incident. It makes her feel like she's less important to him than Peter trying to prove himself to New York. However, Spider-Man arrives on the scene still, and himself and Black Cat have a little tumble. I'm taking a page from the Spectacular Spider-Man show here, as in the middle of the fight Peter steps on the symbiote and accidentally steals it. The next day, Jameson slams Spider-Man for working with the Black Cat to steal the symbiote, which was going to cure Harry Osborn. However, Peter thinks the cat accidentally stole it and not himself. There is a scene where Eddie and Harry are discussing. Both are absolutely furious. Mencken comes in and with the board came to the decision to fire Harry as he let property of Oscorp Industries get stolen. Eddie is furious with Spider-Man. Because of Spider-Man, he is out of a job, Harry won't be cured, and the last couple of weeks whilst working on the project now meant nothing. Harry sees the local newspaper and pictures provided by, you guessed it, Peter Parker, and is furious at Peter now for not trying to stop it. Peter starts to realize that no one would be able to get into Oscorp like that as easily as the cat did unless that certain person worked at Oscorp. After all, he had to have Gwen help him get into Oscorp in the first place. Peter puts the pieces together, and after that scene earlier where Peter and Felicia met each other and it was quite awkward as if they'd already met each other before that, he figures out that the cat is in fact Felicia Hardy. Harry starts to scram. He is dying and it's happening faster than his father. He starts to tremble. He breaks into Oscorp and digs deep into Oscorp's files and finds the Green Project, the serum created by Norman Osborn that he actually did discover earlier and read through, but decided to go with the Symbiote Project. It's meant to enhance human abilities. It probably won't have the same effect as the symbiote, and it was never completed and testing was never done, so it could be lethal. But Harry's hope is that enhancing his human abilities, including all main systems around the body, could help cure him. What has he got to lose? He's going to die either way. Without any hesitation, he takes it. Spider-Man confronts Felicia. Felicia starts to break down in front of Spider-Man, showing the weak side of her character. She tells Spider-Man that she never wanted that life. It is revealed that Donald Mencken saw her talents and hired her to steal the symbiote so he could kick Harry out of Oscorp. And if she didn't, she would be fired from Oscorp. Donald Mencken has been behind everything this entire time. The cat robberies with Felicia, kicking Harry out, and now it's all coming together, but at the same time, falling apart. Spider-Man tells Felicia she can do good, and she can turn her life around if she just stops the crimes. Felicia refuses and escapes, due to her shame. Peter and Gwen have a scene where they're both upset. Gwen because she has to leave, and Peter is caught up with being Spider-Man too much. His ego has been damaged due to the city now not trusting him even more after the symbiote incident. They have a slight falling out and argument about this. This is where we get the symbiote crawling up the leg scene. Peter's anger and ego is thrived off by the symbiote. Peter has changed as a person due to his obsession of being accepted by everyone. Harry, Eddie, Gwen, the city, Aunt May, Jameson, Felicia. But slowly over this film so far, all of his relationships have been damaged and he's angry. The symbiote plays off this fact and thus the black suit Spider-Man is born. We could have a similar scene to the classic hanging upside down scene like in the cartoons, comics, and of course Spider-Man 3. The serum starts to affect Harry. The symptoms go away, but he starts to hear voices inside of his head. The voices in Harry's head will represent all the built-up anger and aggression he's been repressing and only slightly showing at times. Spider-Man could have saved Harry once, but he rejected him, and now he's took away the last chance to Harry's survival, the symbiote. Harry must bring justice to the city. Harry shares an agenda with the city, so decides to take it up on himself to stop Spider-Man once and for all. For the city, for him, and his legacy. Harry goes completely insane, and his goal is clear now. To save himself, first he must kill Spider-Man. Harry Osborn, now the Green Goblin, tracks down Spider-Man. Harry does some digging, and after much research he concludes that it would make a lot of sense if Peter Parker, his friend, his best friend, his brother, was Spider-Man. Why wouldn't Peter call the police at the crime scene with the cat? Because he was fighting the cat. He was Spider-Man. Harry combines his anger for Peter that he developed in this film with the hatred that he has for Spider-Man, and together it creates a big ball of mental mess. He kidnaps Gwen Stacy. This pisses Peter off, and the symbiote embodies and represents this. Spider-Man won't let Harry have his life, so Harry will torture him by taking away the person that he loves the most, Gwen. Spider-Man hunts Harry as black-suited Spider-Man. The final showdown and grand finale to this relationship of these two characters ends here. Peter Parker as Spider-Man and Harry Osborn as the Green Goblin. But who is the villain? They both have done wrong in this film. The lesson here is that in a fight where you both have hurt each other, it doesn't mean someone is morally right. Most of the time, both sides of the story are valid for using anger and aggression, but it doesn't mean you should. This is represented through the insanity of the Green Goblin and the anger fueled by the symbiote Spider-Man. As the news broadcasters start to home in on the fight, we get a shot of Felicia down by the sidelines contemplating whether to help or not, and considering Spider-Man's offer to turn away from the crime and do some good. She can't decide, she is conflicted, and she walks away. She doesn't want to get involved. In the end, Peter as a character is punished for this, and the Goblin kills Gwen. It's almost like karma. You could almost think of it as he traded Harry Osborn's life for Gwen's life, or vice versa, by stealing the symbiote. Peter is furious and beats Harry to a pulp. He almost kills him until he comes to the realization, Spider-Man does not kill people. This is the catalyst for Peter to get rid of the symbiote, as he realizes what it's doing to him. He almost killed his best friend, or ex-best friend at this point. He gets rid of it, and Eddie Brock from being religious is at a church, which will be explained away, don't worry. And Peter goes to the same church to get rid of the symbiote. Eddie Brock gets the suit, and the final shot of the movie is a zoom in on Venom's face, and a big roar in the background. And then I'll throw in a little post-credit scene at the end here of Donald Mencken and his evil plan. Donald Mencken is being suspicious. He's behind the cat robberies. He was behind the entire Black Cat. He was behind Harry getting fired. But was this all for a reason? We'll have to find out. Thank you guys for watching The Amazing Spider-Man 3. If you did enjoy, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I'm telling you, this one took quite a while to do because, as you can tell, there's a lot of content in this movie, and I think this is borderline overstuffed. It's not overstuffed, but it's getting there. Like, I had to do some things with this film. I had to rewrite this so many times to make sure this was good, and as you could tell, I'm quite ill right now, so I'm very sorry, but yeah, it was mad to write this. I'm glad I could finally get this out. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching once again, and I'll see you guys in the next one. The next one of these videos, though, by the way, will be Spider-Man 5. And after I've done with my Spider-Man stuff, I'm going to go ahead and start doing the same thing, but for Star Wars. And I'm going to be rewriting Star Wars 7, 8, and 9 for what I would have liked to have seen in the sequel trilogy. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.